Halloween
Forever.
Hey, greetings. As I know, we're talking about VHS 85 here for this here, I guess it's a revenge episode. Got me thinking, do you guys remember that that flick from 1985 called Orion's Belt? Did you ever hear that one?
No. What about it, Brian?
Yeah, I don't know. It just got me thinking about it, you know? It was all right. I give it 3 stars. Welcome.
Shut up.
To a fucking spooky minisode of Halloween is Forever.
Man.
I'm Brian.
I'm Meg.
And I'm still champ.
Why
Champ,
and how?
champ, champ.
Why and how?
Oh, man. So I have things and stuff to say about this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
know if
mean,
you want me to do it
so
now.
for those of you who haven't, well, let me catch up the audience. Let me catch those who are playing the home game. Let's catch them up. If you haven't already, if you didn't go back and listen to that October Showdown episode, spoiler alerts abound. We had a fatal 4-way, a dang old barn burner of a slobber knocker of a October Showdown episode where we had a fatal 4-way between myself, Steve, Meg, and Bigfoot Ben. And it went to the vote because, of course, we had an even number of guys. It was very easy for this to end up in a tie, and it did. And then it went to the listeners, and it was Steve with 1986's I want to say Rocktober. What the hell is the name of that movie?
Rocktober Blood.
Yeah, I want to say Rocktober Blood. What is it again? It's a
Trick or Treat.
Trick or Treat from 1986 with Sammy Kurrock's Chosen Warrior. And then Meg had the not Big Top Massacre. Jesus Christ, I can't remember the name of any of the movies.
You're so good today.
Brains are
What
bad.
is it?
The Funhouse Massacre.
Funhouse Massacre. I got straight up poo brains, yins guys. And it went to the vote, and Steve did take it, which I expected to be the case. So I'm interested to see why you're so peeved, Meg, because I'm actually slightly less peeved than I normally would be for a Steve win because he lucked into this. He stumbled. You know, he failed upward on this, where the wheel o' ween just happened to give him an 80s horror movie, and then we all had fucking 2000s and even 2010s horror movies. And if you put that up on this, just to vote, like the 80s stuff, we know our audience. They're going to vote for the 80s stuff. So.
Right. And I think that's my problem. And I was like, I couldn't do anything about it based on our previous Meg rail, where I couldn't try to rally for myself. And I was like, this movie was such a surprise, a good film for being something we didn't get to choose, that I was like, no matter what, people are going to see Trick or Treat and just choose that one. There's no chance. I felt like, I did not ask anyone to vote specifically for my film. So
you should have pulled out all the stops. Like I said, no holds barred. You should have pulled them out all the stops. You should have been out there fucking, ticker tape parade, just throwing pamphlets and shit off the top of the buildings.
This is what you guys went after me for last time.
I know, but this is Steve. You gotta knock him down a peg. He's winning too often.
This
lately.
is the only time Brian will ever be like, you should have asked all your friends to vote.
I'm self-serving in my motivations. Anyway, yeah, I mean, I feel like this movie, Trick or Treat from 1986. Again, we're not talking about Trick or Treat with Sam and the little sack-headed fucking trick or treater guy. We're talking about Sammy Kurrock's Chosen Warrior. That movie right now, I think, is kind of almost in the it's being treated a lot like Near Dark was treated a few years ago, when you all of a sudden couldn't find it, and everyone had this. It's like when the McRib goes away, guys, or it's New Coke. Nobody really gives a shit about it till you tell them they can't have it. Now everyone gives a fuck about it. So the fact that we can't find Trick or Treat from 1986 very often on, it's not streaming anywhere right now. I know quite a few people listeners message us was like, where the fuck can I find this? And I'm like, you're going to have to either have a physical copy or go through some sort of illegal means because it's not streaming anywhere. And like I said, Near Dark was like that a few years ago, I remember.
And I'm like that with Josta. I want Pepsi to bring back Josta.
You went back Josta. Yeah, you got that fucking that Puma in you just trying to come out. You don't remember Josta?
No, I do remember Josta. And that's why I'm just like wondering why you would want to bring it back.
Because it ruled. It was great.
Josta was good. I mean, Josta wasn't there a big claim to fame? I know they kind of rebranded a couple times. I don't know how the fuck we got onto this. But wasn't their whole thing? It had like a lot of caffeine, a lot of guarana. Wasn't that the whole thing? They were real high on the guarana
berries. Yeah. Which was that was the hype thing in the 90s. Anytime you wanted to have a caffeine because Joke Cola had guarana in it. There was that one energy drink just called Balls, which was all guarana.
Basically, it's like, hey, child, your heart's strong enough to deal with this.
Right.
Drink it up.
Yeah.
Drink it up.
Coffee tastes bad, but if we put guarana berries in it, you can get fucking psyched and just, have heart palpitations at 12 while you're staying up all night playing video games.
Well, that's exactly when I used to. There was a shitty little not shitty. It was nice. This is a little corner, not even corner. I live in the middle of nowhere. Country market / bait shop. Yep. That was the only retail establishment in my town growing up. And when we were having like a sleepover, they had, you could pick from about like 20 different VHS tapes that you could rent. We go down there, rent them, grab some fucking Mr. Good bars and some Skittles and some Josta, and we'd be fucking raging on Final Fantasy VII till the wee hours of the morning.
It's good for you.
Was that like before like Mountain Dew hype for that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was probably a little bit before Mountain Dew was like fucking extreme, you know what I mean? Before they like started going X Games on everyone's asses, but
yeah. They hadn't quite reached and figured out gamer fuel at the time.
No, this is pre-Code Red. This is all pre all that.
Yeah.
Anyway, guys, Steve did take it down, and you know what? I don't know if it's His Infernal Majesty himself, his charitable ways got under Steve's skin during this blessed time of year, and he said, you know what? I'm not going to do something horrible to these guys. I'm just going to pick a movie I want to see.
He's like, I'm not going to make you watch movies about poo. I'm going to give you something that you probably were going to watch anyway this month.
Yeah. I figured it's the reason of the season. I took into account. I took into account that I was just given by the Wheel of Ween, an ultimate
Sam
winner.
Claus over here.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's like, as the Wheel of Ween gives to me, I will give back to the rest. And we just watched nice, simple VHS 85.
It's a good karma play on Steve's part, which I appreciate. So hail Satan, you guys. We're not watching a shit movie, a scatological flick.
I just don't trust it, regardless. For your sake, Brian, I don't trust it still.
Oh, it's gonna go horribly wrong. Well, I mean, we're coming up on we're in the throes of spooky season here. We've only got a few episodes left. This and really a couple more before Halloween. And then for me, we're jumping straight into Christmas horror because I love me some Christmas horror. So the shittier, the better, as far as I'm concerned in that front. But anyway, guys, like I said, we're going to talk about the quite recently released VHS 85 anthology flick here in a moment. But we got a couple of dang old things we got to do. First of all, if you're new to the show, welcome. We get a lot of new listeners this time of year. Here's how this fucking thing goes. We put some like unctuous, sweet, spicy, almost a numbing sensation on the tongue type of content out there on the interwebs. Every damn Monday, we put out some content. We put a new Minisode, but the first Monday of the month, we do a showdown episode. That's what we were just talking about there for a dang old second ago. We normally pick a topic that comes from this big old spinning wheel of 150 million topics that we've amassed over the last few years. We pick 3 of them. We throw them out in the social medias, and our social media friends and listeners help us pick. If you want to be part of that, follow us, at Halloween is Forever on Instagram, or at Hal Forever on the X, on the Twitchers. Not Twitch. I always try to make some sort of stupid portmanteau or combination or whatever of it, but it's not Twitch. It is, in fact, the thing that used to be Twitter, but is now X. You can go over there, help us vote. The most recent poll that we had, Steve, what were our 3 picks in our most recent poll?
The recent one was revenge films.
Yes.
It was fan films.
Mm-hmm.
And it was telekinesis.
Yes, telekinesis.
Back for like a third
telekinesis,
time this year.
Yeah, I mean, it gets picked. I swear that one gets picked more frequently than ever, and it always loses for whatever reason. I think everyone just thinks like, I don't want to talk about Firestarter, and then they can't think of another movie after that.
But it's like
or Carrie,
Scanners.
which we've already talked about. Carrie, Scanners. We can talk about Scanners. That's true. We could definitely talk about Scanners.
You guys,
come on, guys.
But Scanners.
Scanners rules. Anyway, second best head explosion in all of horror. But this time around, it was a pretty clear-cut victory. A first time on the wheel topic took it home, and that was revenge horror. So we're talking about revenge flickies here, guys. Mm-hmm. So in the coming weeks, we'll announce what our revenge horror films are going to be for that November Showdown, which will be the first Monday, of course, in November, which will be, let's look at what that date is, just out of curiosity here.
November
that'll be the
6th? 6th, 7th?
Yeah, 6th of November. So get ready for that. That'll be a lot of fun. I think there's probably some discussions that are going to be had about what constitutes revenge horror versus just some kind of like revenge thriller movies. We talked about that a little bit. We said, basically, here's kind of our litmus test. Last House on the Left, that's revenge horror. But
Death Wish, not revenge
Charles
horror.
Bronson's Death Wish, not revenge horror,
no.
Right? That is just a straight up revenge action movie. So that's our litmus test. That's what we're going to try to keep ourselves honest with here. But I got a couple in the hopper. We'll talk about them in the coming weeks. And then we'll also announce our guest for November as well.
Yes.
Again, follow us on all the social medias. You just search Halloween's Forever. We'll come up on the Tiki Talkies and all that type of stuff. And if you want to email us, I don't know why the hell you would want to email us. I guess you maybe want to send us some lewd emails, you perverts, over there on Gmail. It's HalloweenIsForeverPod@gmail.com. You can always send us an old-fashioned email, too, if that's more your speed. Let's talk about beers real quick. Has everybody got a little beer? We're recording. It's an early Saturday evening here. A little peek behind, a little inside baseball here. So I'm getting after a couple 2 Tree beers. What are you drinking?
I got a beer. But if Meg wants to go first.
I have wine. I mean, I do have a natural light there. Like there, you saw me drinking that.
Yeah, you got a little sidecar. I was going to say, don't sit there and lie to us. I can see your face and what you're doing. I know you got a natural light.
I do have one. I'm still on that train. No, a couple weeks ago, I got kind of like screwed at work.
When are you moving
and
to
they
Florida, by the way? Anybody drinking natural light, I just immediately assume either you are from Florida or you're going to be moving to Florida at some point.
Oh, okay. So now I have to like sink into this persona now of like, but like what kind of Florida person would I be? Because there's a variety. Am I like the artsy Tampa type? Or am I like beach, like trying to get a tan? This face does not tan, y'all.
No. Meg, I'm going to tell you this. If you don't know this, this might close the deal for you. Florida is the largest concentration of bog hags of any state in the country.
The wetlands, they're protected.
Oh, so I'll fit right in.
The Everglades, like literally bog hags.
So we're talking Gulf Coast, probably. Like I'll be living on the Gulf Coast.
You probably don't even have to pay taxes if you claim, if you establish yourself as a bog hag. I don't even think you have to pay taxes in Florida.
Yeah. No, they actually will pay me to move down there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they are super pro bog hag down there. So,
I mean, you could be a bog hag. You could also like, because a lot of that is in the middle of the state, you could kind of just hang out in Kissimmee and be like, like Disney adjacent bog hag.
A Disney adult bog hag.
Yeah.
Like you're like Ursula. You like dress like Ursula every day.
That seems like a lot of upkeep. And also that seems like I might have to interact with people, and that's not really my vibe,
It's up to you.
I really think I would be like want to be a little bit more secluded. That's the bog hag I'm after.
Classic bog hag tendencies.
You could also be like a Gainesville Carney, Florida bog hag.
Oh hell yeah, that's your speed,
You
Meg.
keep bringing up situations where I have to be around people.
But I mean, carnies.
But you can, carnies. You can be fully antisocial in all of your tendencies. Like you could spit on them, and they'll they don't care.
They'll just spit on your back.
Yeah, they in Gainesville carnies, they expect that.
It would definitely pee on a lot of people.
Gainesville's your town. Anyway, what wine are you drinking there? Something made from fermented newts or what?
Yeah. It's it was concocted just yesterday. It's like pretty fresh. It's an Italian wine. I got it from work, and I don't know much about it besides that it's like pretty tasty. It's very nice and dry, but it's Barbera d'Asti. I don't know how to.
Sure.
I don't know.
Asti Spumante.
No, it's this beautiful. It's too much light. My Twitch lighting is like really, really getting out of hand. Yeah, no, it's really nice. It's it's blood red. It's it's not actually. It doesn't like. It's pretty.
Drinking it out of the milk tube.
Oh yeah, no. I also was like, I don't really have wine glasses, so I just drink out of whatever I want. And
hell yeah, dude.
It's just pulled this bad dad out, and I'm like, seems like a way I would control myself.
That's actually a good wine. I do drink wine out of Sanjas, but when you get down to Florida, you better get rid of them some bitches and start drinking out of jelly jars, because that's all they drink wine out of down there.
Totally. Yeah, you got to have the smaller one, so you just kind of forget how like counting of how many you have. It's a day drinking glass.
Jelly jars, red Solo cups, or just like a big stemless.
Oh no! But I'm actually thinking of like. I'm just thinking of like older people who would drink out of something that was like almost looked like a ball jug kind of thing that was like ripply, and it's tiny. So like maybe no more than 8 ounces. So you just like keep filling it up, and you never really, it's kind of like if you ever get like a kegerator at home, that's like really dangerous because you just stop counting how many beers because you can't count cans. You're just like, oh, I'm just going to keep refilling this. That's what my future I think is, I don't want to know.
I like that for you. I like that for you.
She doesn't want to know her future. She just wants to slide into it.
That's what Florida's for, baby. All right. So, Steve, what do you got over there?
Let
me guess, not drinking Italian wines.
Good guess. Hit it right on the nose. Got it on the nose, bud.
Yeah.
I brought on a little kryptonite.
No shit.
Not for me.
Oh God.
Oh no.
You really do hate me.
Uh-oh.
I see it. Those things like and still also, just haunt my dreams.
This is the new version, Meg.
It's not any different in my world. It's still the same.
Tell the folks what you're sipping on.
I'm drinking the new for 2023 Caramel Pumpkin.
Oui.
The Imperial Pumpkin Ale.
From Southern Tier up there in beautiful, what's that, Lakeland?
Yeah.
No, not
Lakewood.
Lakeland is down in Florida. Jesus. You got me thinking Florida here.
Florida time.
Lakeland's where Publix is based.
Yeah, I grew up around a lake. Yeah, I grew up around a lake. I didn't grow up around the ocean. I guess I did also grow on the ocean. But no, we're not talking Florida. We're talking Western New York, Chautauqua Lake. It's where the snowbirds come back to.
Yeah.
And then they go to Florida after, so this is all coming together, guys. The story, the Florida of New York, that people might say that.
Yeah, I've heard people say that.
That's what people say about Ithaca, the Florida of New York.
Yeah. How is it? Is it? I'm picturing it just sickeningly sweet. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty gross.
Well, and that's my thing
with
the
regular. The only thing that was like worse than the pumpkin is like the creme brulee was the only other thing that would like haunt me more. That's like intense and too much, and definitely could probably make me vomit.
Well, this is the best of both of those worlds because it's the caramel and the pumpkin meeting together in, just gross harmony of 8.6%.
Thanks, I hate it.
Yeah. Wasn't there one called I know there was a mocha one that was really sweet, but wasn't there one that was just called chocolate and it's with a K? And that was straight up brownie batter. It was like a bomber of brownie batter.
Oh man. It was that one, I will actually defend that one. I like that one.
It was a good beer if you want to drink melted brownie batter. Yeah.
And I did quite often.
And I did, yeah.
They did for one Valentine's Day, they mixed that with a 50% of a champagne. So it definitely cut down that sweetness and then served it with a strawberry. And it was definitely got drunk off those that night.
that was my date. A headache.
It was so good. It was a good headache. Tasty headache.
Well, your boy is drinking a bit of a throwback as well. I am drinking, I thought it was, vaguely apropos of the season, a little red lager, Leinenkugel's red lager. I don't know if you Ians remember this beer at all. This used to be one of their top sellers, and then it was only a Wisconsin beer, and I drank this quite a bit as my shift beer when I worked in Milwaukee and spent some time up in beautiful Chippewa Falls where Leinenkugel's is, and they're calling it a robust red Vienna style lager. It drinks like a kind of slightly hoppy American style, red lager, amber lager. They kind of reformulate it, and they actually do it's got to be a pretty modest dry hop, but it does call out dry hopped with Wisconsin grown hops. But it is, like I said, it is very, caramel malt forward, clean, drinkable lager beer with just a little bit of kind of peppery, herbaceous, hop character in it. A little bit of nostalgia for me. Like I said, I was drinking it back in the day when I lived in Wisconsin, and I think they did a limited run of it, and 12 pack sitting on the shelf, couldn't resist. So I'm getting after some Leinie's red lager.
You can find that here now. It's out right now.
Oh yeah, bought that at the Giant Eagle. Just this weekend. All right, guys, we got the beers out of the way. Before we get into this movie, it's probably worth mentioning, guys, we got a Patreon now. It's patreon.com/Halloween is forever. Steve, tell the folks about what they get if you decide to support us over on the Patreon.
All right, go over on Patreon. Do what Brian said. Patreon.com/Halloween is forever. You go on there. Mm-hmm. We got 2 tiers. 1 tier is kind of a trial tier. You can sign up for a 7-day free trial. You kind of see some of the 2-3 things we got going on. We got this month, we've got 31 days of horror recommendations. So you can read those.
Tasty, sweet recos. We
got extra polls you can participate in. Episodes come out a little earlier sometimes. So you get a couple 2-3 things on there on the $3 tier.
Yes.
$5 tier, that's where the bread and butter is. $5 tier?
That's the deal. That's the wise man's deal, guys. You like shopping for BOGOs, you like shopping for deals. It's almost that time of year, guys. That's the deal.
That's why the little tier, it does have the 7-day free trial. $5 tier, it doesn't. It's just I gotta bring you in with a taste, but when you're ready to really commit. Yeah, that's right. When you're ready to commit, when you're ready to get serious, get on the $5 tier. That's how you get on the Discord, and you can hang out with us as we record episodes. You can also get some of the extra things that I'm running this month. Promotion I'm running is a subscriber for Art Drive. So if you sign up on your $5 tier and you sign up a friend, you can commission a piece of art from me.
Steve does some fun art. I own quite a few t-shirts that Steve designed, including one that constantly confuses people, that has the Tasmanian it's Garfield, but he's shaped like the Tasmanian devil, and it says "My balls are full of pee," and I wear that about town. Right. Yeah. And people are confused about it, and I have to explain it to them quite often.
You have to explain that your friend has some sort of schizophrenia.
I say, don't worry about it. Usually my explanation is, mind your goddamn business.
That's right.
And then
that's
they go,
also
wow, that guy's cool.
Yeah. But, we got that subscriber drive going on. So go on, check it out. You can get yourself a piece of art. Maybe I'll draw you a t-shirt, a logo. If you want some voxel art, anything like that, I'm down for it.
Mhm.
The other thing, and the most important thing, though, is that you get the monthly exclusive podcast, Family is Forever, on that
Guys, I hate
$5
it.
rascal tier.
Guys, I hate it. We're going into the 4th month of this thing. Steve makes me watch all the Fast and the Furious movies. I've never seen any of them. I hate them so much. It's a real slog. I've been watching the 4th one, which we're about to record the episode of, which is called Fast & Furious. And I've been watching it about 5 minutes at a time. I can't fucking stomach it. It's like drinking bleach, guys. It is one of the worst. I thought the second movie is the worst movie I've ever seen. At least it had some laughable parts. This movie is putrid garbage water. It is horrifyingly bad, but they are fun to talk about because they suck so bad. So Steve's kind of gaslighted me into doing this bullshit, and now I'm pretty sure there's some sort of government mind control happening. I live in a dumpster in an alley now, and I watch it on my phone while life's falling apart. If you'd like to hear,
I'm just waiting for the moment you start craving them. You're going to be like, man, I really miss that film.
If you would, that's Steve's ultimate goal. I'm pretty sure that's the end game for him. But if you would like to watch my life and my, mental well-being just slowly disintegrate, you probably should subscribe to the Rascal tier because it's fun. It's fun to watch and it's fun to record. But like I said, watching the movies is an absolute fucking slog.
It's Brian will end up just at video stores and at theaters scratching himself, just asking, "You got any more of that Fast and Furious?"
Anything. I'll take either one, Fast or Furious. I don't even need both. Oh, good Christ. Steve keeps going. Again, I'm not even going to get into it. Just because Steve keeps telling me that they're going to get good. I know that they're not. It's a whole smoke and mirrors thing that we're dealing with. So come on over and listen to us talk about that. That's our bonus podcast that you can only get if you're a Rascal tier subscriber on patreon.com/Halloween is forever. Also, last little pitch, guys, if you like this show, if you start listening to it during spooky season here, or if you've been a long time listener, we appreciate you. Take the plunge. It's an easy thing. It'll take you about 10 seconds and it's going to make a big difference for us. Go onto your podcatcher app, iTunes or Spotify or wherever the hell you're watching, listening to this here podcast. Go in there, review the podcast. Scroll down the bottom, give it a 4 or 5 star review, whatever the maximum amount of stars is. And then you just have to type a little comment. It could literally say, fuck your face. It could say whatever. It doesn't matter. It could say you guys are real pieces of shit. Doesn't matter. As long as you give it a 5 star and write a little comment, then send us a DM on Instagram or on Twitter, and I'll send you some dang old Halloween is Forever stickers in the mail. You can go out and do crimes with them this Halloween. Meg's being attacked by a cat right now, just an FYI.
He's so sweet. It's like he's actually being nice right now.
Well, it's funny because he's crawling up on your Meg has this just straight up murder cat, just murdered out, black on black, and he at first was just biting her sleeve. Now he was crawling up and being all nice and sniffing.
Now he's purring. I'm sorry, Steve. He's probably gonna be on the mic.
Yeah, maybe.
That's better. That's better than normally. I'm like,
you're eating and
chips
chomping
or whatever, fucking nonstop. So,
yeah.
All right. Let's get into this fucking movie here. Didn't we did VHS 94 together, right? That was a minisode.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, because I feel like it was around the time we watched Deadstream 2, and like the director of that did a skit in that one too, right? Yeah.
That was probably what.
Still excited to see more shit from him.
Yeah. Is that going to be is that almost 2 years ago?
Yeah, that's 2021 that VHS 94 came out. And then, so I guess because they also just announced that there's,
guys.
Yeah, I think they just announced a new one that's going to come out, and I assume in another 2 years there will be VHS Sci-Fi.
Oh, that'll that'll be fun.
I feel like I'm definitely into it. Curious.
Yeah, This one is it seems a little, I don't know, maybe not. I was saying it seems a little bit like this should have came out before VHS 94. I don't know why. We can talk about why I might feel that way, but you know, if for those of you who are familiar with the VHS franchise, these are generally speaking, so it's an anthology horror series. Usually you've got, you know, 5, 6 you know, kind of short films with some sort of wraparound, you know, through line type of thing. And they're
all found footage, so it's all
that's
presented.
what I was saying. I was about to say, I'm pretty sure they're all pretty much found footage.
Yeah.
With very, very few exceptions. And these go back to when did the first one come out? These have been around for a hot sec, right?
I think the early
2012.
2013. I feel like I watched the first one in like 2013, 2014, 2015, somewhere in there, right? Or am I?
No, I think you're right. I'm trying to do a quick scan here. The first film VHS came out in 2012. Yeah, so we're into the second decade of VHS movies.
Yeah.
They have VHS, VHS 2, then VHS Viral, then a big gap, a relatively big gap there, because VHS Viral came out in 2014.
Mm-hmm.
And then we went a long ways until we got VHS 94, which was in 2021.
While you're on it, I'm curious because I feel
forgot. Then there was
like
VHS 99. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot. Then they
while
99.
You're on
now
it,
we're
I
back
am
to 85.
curious with like some of the background with it. I feel like the first few, I don't know if they knew exactly what they were going to go after besides just doing a very sporadic, like culmination of like different, you know, kind of like skits of sorts. But then did it change hands as far as who was producing it and putting it out? Like
no,
between that
it's
gap?
always been bloody disgusting. Yeah, it's always been originally created by...
I feel like they did a good job almost pivoting a little bit to create like a better flow to it. Like, you know, it maybe felt like a little bit more like a film in a sense.
Yeah,
I don't know.
They were a little bit more dissonant early on. They also had like... So like the first one, now this is 2012, so they weren't quite who they are now, but like going back to the first one, it had like Adam Wingard, David Bruckner, Ty West, you know, Joe Swanberg, you know, so there was like some names that emerged as like, you know, one of their first projects probably that put them on the map was the first VHS movie, but it's always been, you know, created by and produced by
Bloody Disgusting, and then Brad Miska is kind of the number one guy who's been producing, I think, all of them,
and Roxanne Benjamin. Yep, but they've all been tied to the same group. People, obviously, different directors for each of the vignettes, if you will. So, yeah, so it's gonna be kind of interesting because they went, like I said, 94, then 99, now back to 1985.
Although it is interesting you brought up David Bruckner because he was a director on the first VHS, and he's actually back on this one. He does the wraparound segment for this one.
He does the wraparound segment. He does the, you know, total copy, they called it, which is kind of a what's the equivalent of total copy? Almost like a prime time investigative news type of show.
Yeah, it's presented almost like Unsolved Mysteries, but also like I think the show was Internal Affairs.
Internal Affairs. I couldn't place the name of it. Yeah, so it's Internal Affairs. And this one's kind of fun because, and I like this about all of them. They've done better with this, Meg, like you said, the kind of the production value and the whole like tying the theme together. Some of the early ones where it was like, you know, there was like a break-in, you know, it was almost like a first person thing of they were being recorded and they didn't know it, and they came in and were almost like a candid thing because it was like a B&E type situation, and then they ended up getting sucked into watching a movie. And then I think 94 maybe it was where they actually were like some sort of paramilitary organization. So they've went through a lot of different iterations. This one is just straight basically, portrayed as like a VHS tape that has a bunch of different stuff taped on it, and also is taped over all types of random nonsense, you know what I mean? Commercials and little bits of various TV shows and that sort of thing. So this one reads very much like a VHS tape that has had a bunch of stuff, taped on it and taped over it and spliced together and all that sort of thing. But this, we can talk about real quick, David Bruckner's wraparound. It focuses on this like group of scientists in a university kind of research setting, and they've got this kid named Rory, and they're kind of studying him. And like I said, it's this very almost Unsolved Mysteries Dateline-ish type of thing called Total Copy.
It was a current affair. Was the one I was thinking of. Internal Affair. I was thinking of Infernal Affairs, which is a completely different thing.
Yeah. Well, you get the idea. I think. Yeah. So I kind of was thinking about Dateline for whatever reason. It kind of reminded me of that. But this like hard hitting, like news, produced show. Anyway, that's all we kind of get. We just get a little taste of what this is all about in the first thing. And then we jump into the first story, which is called No Wake. And I'll give a really quick rundown. We could talk about what, how we felt about it. But, again, this is all based in the mid 1980s. And we've got a crew of, I'm going to guess like 20 somethings, could be college age, could be, post college age crew. And, someone's got a camcorder, and they've really leaned into this whole like theme of, in 1985, it would have been, relatively uncommon for somebody to have a camcorder. Not uncommon, but it would have been
novel.
It would have been novel. That's a good way of putting it. So they're kind of like, no one really feels really comfortable on camera. Everyone feels like they have to like be very formal when they're on camera, but there's one person kind of creeping around with a camera. So you've got this group of folks in a Winnebago. They're going camping, going to a camping trip on a lake type of thing. That's all you're able to glean. You start to learn a little bit about, there's like the guy who's the cameraman, his sister is part of the trip, his sister's boyfriend, and a bunch of their friends basically. So like I said, they're really leaning into the whole dad with a camera thing. Lots of stuff as they approach the lake, saying like don't swim signs, posted like don't swim warnings, don't swim. They see this like dead, it's like a dead squirrel laying by the creek that looks like pretty mutilated and fucked up, but nothing too crazy. There's this kind of romantic interest thing happening between the cameraman and one of the other friend group. And they decide they're going to go out and go water skiing. And the one girl who's kind of, she's the one who's kind of the romantic interest, but she's also a little bit cautious, maybe a little bit more like not quite as socially outgoing as the rest of them. She's water skiing, and all of a sudden you just hear like a pop and she goes down. And then everyone in the boat just starts getting shot. And it's pretty brutal.
Yeah.
And it's very abrupt. I didn't know anything about this movie ahead of time, but they're out in the middle of a lake, very isolated out in this boat, somebody out. And then all of a sudden everyone just starts getting blasted.
Yeah. Up until this point, it feels a lot like The Raft from Creepshow. Just in
a little bit, yeah.
Just
similar
the way
vibe.
Yeah, just the way it's presented, with the exception of the found footage, gimmick. Like it feels kind of like you got like a little nerdy group, and they're all just doing things, and they're like, obviously trespassing and swimming somewhere they shouldn't. But yeah, then
you think a monster is going to come out of the lake or something like that.
You think a monster is going to happen, but a monster doesn't happen. They just start getting shot, and it's like, holy shit.
Yeah, they just getting like sniped from a distance. So literally like one of the girls, she's kind of like a, not inconsequential character, but she's not one of the main ones. She just gets her jaw blasted off. Like they even get to a point where they are kind of ducking down below, the surface, down into the kind of the hull of the little, speedboat, and they're shooting through there. And there's obviously a lot of panic and that sort of thing. And then, they're getting blasted through there, and they all just get, essentially get shot to death. I mean, that's really all there is to it. That, they both, everyone lasts about 2 minutes, it seems like. And then there's just this quick little interruption, in the tape, and then all of a sudden they all just kind of start coming back to life. So you think it's going to be this like oh, it's this fun, happy-go-lucky 80s scene, whatever, and then everybody starts getting blasted in this really brutal way. And then you don't really know what to expect, but I certainly didn't expect them all to start coming back to life. And they all have these very brutal injuries. Like I said, the one girl's like jaws hanging off. One guy's like brains are hanging out of the back of his head. There's a 7, like a Roman numeral 7 that's drawn on their camper once they get back to shore. And then they find in the tent, the cameraman, his name is Rob. Rob's sister is in the tent and her boyfriend, and they're dead. And the rest of them have all come back to life. They're all resurrected despite these like horrific mortal wounds, and they obviously were dead. And they've come back to life. They were the ones who were out on the water.
Right.
Whereas the ones who were stayed back on shore, the ones that stayed back on shore were not resurrected.
There was also one guy on the boat with them who didn't get in the water. And he was shot through the head, and he also didn't get up because he hadn't touched the water at that point. Yeah.
So there's obviously something supernatural happening with the water itself.
Yeah. Yeah. I was honestly, they boomed me. They got me.
Same.
When the tape cuts after they're all dead, and it cuts to like a monster truck show or whatever it was. Because they did a good setup of like including, in continuing that idea of like, this is just a tape that got taped over multiple times. Yeah. They had like real commercials and real.
We had like a little tractor pull there, which then I got psyched up. Yeah, I started getting a little chubbed up when I saw a tractor pull.
There's the tractor
Just
pull.
The white trash in me.
There's the cochlear ear implant ad that everybody remembers. So like, I was like, oh, okay. And then like after everybody gets shot, they cut to something, and I was like, was that fucking it? I'm like, that's lazy. That's so lazy. And then it came back, and I was like, hey, okay.
They did. My notes, my preliminary notes were a little less kind. Yeah. Because I was like, really, guys? Like because here's the thing, and I hope that they were going to bring it back around, because they cut that, like you said, and you get this little you get some tractor pulls for a quick second, and then they get back, and they're all back on shore. They're at the campsite. Like I said, they find at that point, they start to determine that the people were in the water, came back to life, other people didn't. And then they start talking about, hey, you guys got the license plate of the person who did this, because there was like I don't remember if it was a car or a truck. There was a strange vehicle on the shore, right? When they were coming back, so they kind of knew, hey, something's going on. And they decided they were going to, take some revenge, and that's basically where it terminates. And then you don't see anything about this story.
I feel like even I liked this skit or this like vignette like actually quite a bit, and I thought like the kills were really brutal, and that really piqued my interest throughout it. But like having it just cut, it did make me a little intrigued, wishing like if that could ever be just like them going off and doing an actual movie on it, I think it would be pretty interesting. But it did kind of just like quit anyway. Just not.
Yeah, I was hoping they were going to bring it back. I was kind of cautiously optimistic that they were going to bring it back, because at first, like you said, Steve, whenever they just cut to the tractor pulls, I was like, really? Come on. Yeah. But then when they came back and started showing again, I'm like, okay, so they're going to keep this going a little bit. They're going to bring it back around in some capacity. And ultimately, I like how they brought it back around, which we'll get to in a sec. But
yeah,
I will tell you the performances were a little hit or miss overall, but I think the corniness of the performances ultimately provided a nice little contrast to how like brutal the violence was, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, it's so brutal because it isn't supernatural. Like right. It, like you actually kind of breathe a sigh of relief when everybody gets up. Cause like you're kind of confused, but also you're like, okay, I just didn't watch like some weird like shooting fantasy. Like I was
gonna say, if it was just like some sort of weird like DC sniper shit, you know what I mean? And it's like this is a little distasteful. Yeah,
it's a little too on the nose for like everything that goes on today. Like, we don't need to see that. Oh, okay, wait, zombies, Highlanders, maybe. Oh, okay, yeah. I'm with you.
Yeah. So they did a nice little okey doke on us. We then get another quick little bit, although not a ton, about Rory and the total copy thing, and you start to learn that he's some sort of alien or something. But it's still very vague at this point. Like, you don't really learn a whole lot more. He's some sort of alien. He might be imitating people. It might be the Thing situation. We're not sure yet. You don't gather a lot more information. You just learn about a few of the doctors and the researchers involved. The next one, God of Death. Not the strongest one, in my opinion, of the group. There were a couple in the middle here that I was like, all right. This was not my favorite one. It wasn't bad by any means, but it's like a Mexican local news station. You get this field reporter. Her name's Gabby, and Lucia is in the studio, and she's the older, kind of anchor, type of person, whereas, Gabby's out in the field, and she's just kind of not cool in general. She's like a little bit, treats people like shit, kind of a little bit of a prima donna, I guess. They're talking about these old buildings, and then all of a sudden there's just a big earthquake at the studio and across, I think they said Mexico City, right? And there's this big earthquake, and then pretty abruptly, the station starts to collapse, and some shit falls on Lucia and smashes her head. And then, and then it's found footage. It goes from it actually being a broadcast to the cameras are still rolling, but all this shit has, hit the fan. So you've got Luis, who's the cameraman, and he's getting rescued from the rubble, and this rescue crew comes in. And the building's continuing to collapse. And Luis insists on carrying the camera, which is that's the whole thing. Sometimes there's a couple different instances here in this movie, in found footage in general, where it's this story, the found footage was more of an anchor than it was an actual, or an albatross, I'll say, even around your neck, rather than it was actually a device you use to your benefit. Yeah. But Luis is I always run the camera. That's my whole life, is running the camera. I got to keep the camera running. And nobody's like, fuck you, dickhead, and smashes the camera out of his hand. They're placating him. It's it's a little bit dumb, but
it's interesting. This film kind of reminded me of another film which is a full film that Eli Roth is actually in as just an actor. He didn't direct it. He's just in. But the film's called Aftershock, and it's about an earthquake in Chile, and it's meant to be a horror movie, but it's much more about a disaster film, and then kind of the crime that arises from just infrastructure falling apart. Now you have a bunch of crime. I think even at one point maybe a prison,
a prison break.
Yeah, there's a prison break. So you get a lot of horror elements out of that, and I thought that's kind of what this was going to stick to, is just keeping it as just straight up horror, but straight up
assault on Precinct 13 type of feel.
Yeah, or just natural disaster.
Did you guys see
horror.
that this was based off of an actual earthquake that happened?
I looked it up.
So I feel it's kind of I think it's an interesting take on it to bring more. But I think having the skulls being found and almost bringing this religious element to it in a sense kind of makes sense for the time or the location. And
I forgot to mention, by the way, going back just a sec, No Wake was written and directed by Mike P. Nelson, who I'm not personally familiar with. But then this one is called God of Death. And this was written and directed by Gigi Salguero. It goes in a different direction, but it takes a long time to do that. And there's some tonal shifts that are a little bit bizarre, which, I will get into here. So like I said, the building's collapsing, you got the rescue crew plus Luis with his camera. And it was weird. It felt like parts of this, especially early on when they're like descending those stairs, felt like a pre-recorded video you'd watch before going on a ride at an amusement park. Like a middle of the road amusement park, you know what I mean? Like maybe you'd see at Cedar Point, or like not Disney quality, but like if you were at Cedar Point or like a Six Flags going on like a kind of disaster ride, you might watch a little bit of that pre-recorded movie in like a room where that shakes a little bit before you actually go on the ride.
Right.
You know?
And you're supposed to, even though you're in a group of like 50 people, you're supposed to put yourself in the shoes of that one person. And all these workers, they're going to lead you to the mine cart that gets you out.
Yeah.
And then you go on the ride, and the ride is the mine cart.
Well, you feel like you're on a path here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or even if it were like a video game where it's like it's a very linear path game that you're playing. But so, the rescue team's there, this piece of, the first time they kind of stop, this piece of reed bar goes through one of the rescue team's chest. And then he obviously he's pretty fucked up. He's got like a piece of rebar through him, but like within about 5 seconds, he's like, all right, just kill me. Everyone just kill me. And then like one of the women just like brains him with a crowbar. And I was like, kind of hasty. Like, I get it. If that sort of thing happened and it was like, you're trapped for 20 minutes and the building is collapsing and you're like, okay, our friend and colleague here, doesn't want to suffer. He doesn't want to be trapped here. So he's just like, I guess that's a decision that could potentially be made. But I feel like people who are part of a rescue crew wouldn't, after 45 seconds, brain one of their, fellow rescue crew in the head with a crowbar. Cause he, you know what I mean? Like, obviously it was a pretty horrific injury, but I
just think they didn't like him. He was definitely not a favorite and the on the team, like this is our time, this is our chance.
It just the whole thing felt a little hasty, but
he just really wanted out.
Also to ask her to do it, but also to ask her to do it. Did you also realize that woman was like handed the crowbar, and I'm like, why did the person who had the crowbar in the first place just do it? I'm like, this seemed a little odd to me.
Well, and it was also, they really peer pressured her into doing it as well. It's like, come on.
Yeah.
It's
a rite of passage in Mexico. We just don't understand the cultural significance of braining your boss.
So, yeah. I guess so. This is a hazing ritual.
Yeah. You want to be part of us? You'll kill our boss.
You gotta if you want to be part of the crew. This is
actually all a simulation just to see what you're willing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and then to make it matters even weirder, 5 seconds later, there's a fart joke. Like it's like literally they're crawling through like a vent and someone farts and they're like, "Did you fart?"
Yeah.
Like I get it that they were trying to be like, "Oh, we've bonded through trauma," but this whole thing is, if this was a hour and 40-minute movie, like okay, maybe you could have time for these like gradual tonal shifts, but not in a course of 6 minutes. Can you go from save everyone, nope, kill ourselves, laugh about farts?
Yeah.
Like it didn't work.
Even if it was reordered though, to put the fart joke before they brained the boss, then that's okay.
It would have been better.
Yeah, it would have. Yeah. It's fine because you haven't reached a point where like, the people are making incredibly hard decisions. They're just escaping at that point. And he makes a little toot and everybody goes, okay, everything's going to be okay. And then, no, it's not going to be okay. We have to brain this guy with a fucking piece of metal.
Right.
Not the other way around. Not the way it happens.
No, it seems very dissonant and weird. They end up in this basement or something. I don't know. Maybe it's an underground cavern. I don't know. But they hear this screeching, this kind of monstrous screeching. And then the rescue crew, like all of a sudden, who 2 seconds ago were just like blue collar workers, are now like fucking paleontologists that know everything about like the things they're reading on the wall and stuff like that. It's just, I don't know. It's
I don't know.
I don't know. It's just,
I don't know. That felt okay to me because it's just kind of like they would know culturally. If you fell into a cave and you saw a whole bunch of, paintings of the Pope and Jesus, you would recognize them. So they fell into.
I'm just saying the internet didn't exist in 1985, so I don't feel like they would have known a lot about all these kind of like demons and shit underground. I don't know.
I think they would have because it's pretty prevalent down in Mexico. I mean, they have like you can still go visit the temples and everything. Like,
but it's just funny how it's like you're in work mode, you're in like save people from a natural disaster mode, and then within 5 seconds you're very okay with going, nuh-uh, this all went very supernatural and spiritual very fast. It just like for them to not have that time of like, no, this is weird and there's some sort of rational explanation for this. No, they went straight to like goddamn demons now. Earthquake demons.
Well, look, but, like I said,
it felt too on the nose, though. That's what I'm saying. Like, it felt really on the nose to like take this thing that really happened and then use or talk about something that, when you think about like how religious a lot of like culture around like Mexico is, that just it felt so directly on the nose. Like I would have expected that there was like a wall of skulls. So like there's just this room and we have this earthquake that unearths it,
Well, and it was called God of Death, so like obviously we knew there was something like this coming, but the character shouldn't know that.
Well, the character, but I mean that's the thing; they're living within proximity of it. That's the thing with us is like we can't go visit Jesus things in America. Jesus didn't do anything in America unless you're Mormon.
He didn't do anything in South America either.
No, not in
North America either.
I'm not saying in South America. Jesus did his shit in the Middle East. But I'm saying as Americans, we have no connection like that. If you're Mexican, you may have connection to, past Mayan and Incan, cultures. And then all that stuff is still standing and you can go visit it on a Tuesday if you really want. So
I know. I'm just like, I guess the ancestors, of our land that we lived in, we kind of just destroyed all the things they had.
Right. Yeah.
Which is all the Native Americans. Like there's not anything left for us to look at. But
occasionally you find an arrowhead on a field trip.
Very kind. You guys are being very kind. This story sucks.
I'm not saying the story doesn't suck. I'm just saying it makes sense that they understand what they see. But it's still wild that it's still wild that the story itself makes that jump from disaster story. And then in the very last couple minutes, oogity boogity, here's a ghost and a demon and a god of death. And it's
then the guys from the palace guards or whatever from Legends of the Hidden Temple show up.
Exactly.
After this.
Yeah.
Like immediately after this.
That's actually where they recorded that show.
What was that guy's name? Oh man, my Nicola. I'm gonna
Kirk Fogg?
my well, not Kirk Fogg. Who is the guy? Mac
Olmec?
Olmec. I want to say Mac something. Olmec, is going to pop up at any point. Olmec tonight's going to show up next. But yeah, you get this like Mayan, warrior looking dude who shows up, and there's just like a lot of screaming, and somehow Luis is recording it all, which is completely lunacy. And eventually the last girl, the last female member of the rescue crew, pulls his heart out and then shows him her boobs. Basically, that's what happens. And then there's like this it's like this whole blood sacrifice to raise the old gods kind of thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And just like a lot of crying and screaming and shaky cam, and no one cares about any of the characters.
Yeah. It's a lot like some of the other previous like VHS entries, where it just like it does a lot of build up, a lot of stuff in the real world, and then boom, spooky thing at the end. And like it doesn't.
Wasn't there one in 94, 99 where there was like a freaking punk rock band of ghouls, in a sewer or some shit?
Yeah.
Like, this just felt like that. Like this could have been interchangeable with that.
Yeah. And like there was one I actually did kind of like in like an earlier VHS, but it's like I think it's a Japanese couple visiting like a Japanese school, and like there's a bunch of sacrifice in the school, and then like the big spooky thing at the end is like the devil shows up. But like they at least do a better job of incorporating the lore to make it believable that the devil shows up at the end. Whereas this one, you spend so much time doing earthquake stuff, and then it's too sudden to get. It's too suddenly introduced.
Yeah, it was. Yes, I would agree 100% with that. Like there was no build up to it. There was no get you thinking what might that screeching sound be. It's just like earthquake, 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 demon.
Yeah.
And then it's over.
Yeah. And it's also confusing because like until you know that the history of like there's like a supposed curse around September 19th because multiple earthquakes keep happening in Mexico City on that day. Like, okay, I can understand, you know, like we're trying to attach like a supernatural element to that. But like, if you don't know that about Mexican history, it kind of falls like, you know, it falls on deaf ears basically. Cause you're just like, whatever. An earthquake happened. Did that actually happen?
Yeah.
Oh, it did.
And it's like, there was the opportunity. They did mention it a little bit, but it was very sparse and at the beginning, and there just could have been, I don't know. They could have set it up better. I wasn't a big fan of this one. It wasn't horrible by any means, but
yeah, I mean, I think the only thing that I do appreciate about it, and I don't think you always see in some of the entries for this, is that like I like the idea that it's based on something that actually happened, and you can like, you know, some people who might be watching it might have like a specific memory about it, but there's in a lot of ways just felt too on the nose and just like something you've seen before in a sense. So
yeah, it did feel nothing felt particularly new about it. Anyway, so we get a little touch of our wraparound here, and you learn that Rory is a shapeshifter, and he's starting to like assume the appearance of one of the, you know, kind of researchers there, and that, you know, essentially he's in scientific captivity. And you also start to get, I think, the little bit of the inkling of there is some dissent amongst the ranks of the researchers and like the primary doctor, and they're all kind of like, oh, what's happening here? So they kind of introduce the uncertainty and maybe a little bit of discourse at this point. The next one is TKNOGD. So obviously, if you like kind of phonetically try to sound that out without all the letters there, it's Techno God, which is this weird. I couldn't help. I'm not sure if I hate it or I like it. It didn't need to be as long as it was, but it did like lull you a little bit. So anyway,
it played into my greatest fear of watching a one-person play.
Well, there was this like.
I can't wait for your one-person play, Steve. I just feel like I can see it coming.
I never would.
You're going to actually do it on this platform too.
Well, this is like, I mean, Steve's you're joking, obviously, but there is a little bit of this like social horror tied into this too, where which I like, and it's used effectively in a lot of movies where it's not the actual scary thing, but it's like it perpetuates the scary thing just long enough, and it like sets the mood. In that you're in this tiny little theater, like ultimately maybe 8 people in the audience, 6 to 8 people in the audience. And you've got this woman on stage, and it's just very much this very avant-garde, you know, one-woman performance. And she's talking about technology and how technology is going to bring, you know, it is our new god, and it's very finger pointing, and you, meaning society, like you have created this, you have, you know, made technology your new god, and this is what's going to happen because of it, and you know, humanity and whatever is dead because of technology and blah blah blah. And the whole idea is like, for people to have thought this in 1985, and of course people thought this way before 1985,
sure,
but like at every point in every, you know, looking back generations going back hundreds and hundreds of years, probably thousands of years, not probably, most definitely thousands of years since, the dawn of humanity. Probably the first person who, got good with a bow and arrow. Somebody was like, you don't even have to chase down that fucking animal and beat it to get death with a rock, and that you're a piece of shit because of it,
Yeah.
So like in every single generation is scared of the technology of the next person, the next generation. And this is very much a testament to that. And this is like a very yeah, that's that's bullshit. Like you can't even eat food that's raw. You're a piece of shit.
How fancy.
Oh, you're gonna sit there in your house. You're gonna sit there, create an agrarian society. What, you don't even want to be nomadic anymore? You're not even a hunter gatherer. You piece of shit.
You grew that
fucking
corn?
Beta cuck. You beta cuck. But anyway, like everyone does this, right? That's the point of our stupid comments here. But so she's very much like preaching about how God is dead and technology is God and all this stuff. And it's like it goes on and on and on. And then eventually she's got some sort of computer, and it's almost like a weird little like primitive 3D Tron style animation of a city, and she's supposedly like walking through the city, and she's standing on stage, and she's got the like virtual reality type of environment she's in, and everyone is watching it on like a projected screen. By everyone I mean the 6 people in the audience. And then ultimately a dang old computer demon comes out. A dang old 110000111000 demon comes out and just fucks her up. And then of course there's the thing where people don't understand if it's her, if it's part of the play. She gets like picked up, tossed around, it's like her legs fucked up and all this stuff. And then, the last lingering shot, which was kind of cool, is like they pull back like the virtual reality kind of visor or whatever, and her like face is all fucked up and her eyes are all bugging out and looking around and stuff. The whole thing could have been 5 minutes, but the benefit of having it be, I don't know, 15 minutes maybe, is that it does build it up, and like you get a little bit of that social horror of like, what are we watching? This is like so cringy.
Yeah.
And then ultimately, shit hits the fan, and the dang old circuit computer demon was like kind of cool, but I'm not sure.
No, it wasn't cool.
I'm not sure if it was.
No, it wasn't cool at all.
Trying to make it seem like it was cool. Like it was. Yeah, it wasn't cool. But like, I guess it was cool that the segment ended.
It was like just this side of like Reboot, if you remember that show growing up.
I was literally just about to say, what the fuck is the name of that PBS show? Because I was going to say Short Circuit.
Yeah.
But yes, it is very, very, it was giving me huge Reboot vibes.
Yeah. And yeah, so she gets attacked by the Reboot demon. And also it's a little eye rolly for a minute, because they try to make a joke, and like maybe you laugh at it, maybe you don't, but like in the presentation of God is dead, there's the guy talking about virtual reality, and he's like showing off his virtual reality headset, and he says, I forgot
about that was a fun little, little section.
But he goes he says, I put my iPhones on. And
yeah, and the whole idea
okay.
is
I was like hoping that was happening, because I remember seeing that like side skit, and I was just like, this whole one was kind of just like annoying. Maybe I'm actually, the more we talk about it, realizing that this is not my favorite VHS overall, because they are just, they feel just like, I was like accepting that some of them were better than the others, but there's just too much of like, look. I don't know. I mean, I think maybe the first one and then the one we talked about, the guy stream, might have been my favorites. But
I was looking through every single VHS has at least 2 stinkers in it. That's why these movies are like thought of well, because you forget the bad ones, you remember the good ones. So they age well for that reason. Like if I thought about like VHS, I think 94 was probably my favorite one of the whole lot, but there were still some stinkers in it. And like every one I look back on, there's probably 2 where I'm like, God damn, I didn't need that. Was not good. But there's a couple that stick in your head and you go, oh, that was fun. And that's why they keep making them. And that's why we keep watching them. But they're always like worth watching for that reason, but you got to put up with a couple stinkers.
I'll give you that. And I think like, but this one just kept on like building to the point where I was just, then that happened. And I was just like, God, this is boring. This is annoying. This is like the stupid fears that we know everyone has, but maybe it's new for someone. So maybe I shouldn't talk too much shit. Like maybe this will actually be like a real scary moment for people and everyone will get off the internet.
Well, I was
Let's
just like,
down, guys. Let's go.
This just has like Videodrome vibes. Like it's just stuff has been done so much, I guess. Yeah. And by the way, I didn't say it was directed by Natasha Kermani. But in any case,
well, even in the segment, like she has a little couple lines where she's talking about, and what do we do when this black mirror reflects back at us? And it's like, oh, Black Mirror, I remember. but that's the thing is like, we've seen so much of this stuff, especially because of Black Mirror now, like, because everything is themed around technology for that show. And it's just like, yeah, we get it. Like it's poisonous to us, but we still keep doing it. Like the internet is just as poisonous to our brains as like cigarettes are to our lungs and fucking drink is for our liver. But like, we don't learn. Yeah. We don't learn. So let it happen.
Well, and I saw there was somebody who it's sad, but I just saw somebody who posted like it was a Instagram reel or TikTok or something I was watching recently. And like, I hadn't really in a while seen somebody put it as blatantly as this, but I thought it was interesting that I not that it was that different of a sentiment, but it was interesting that I still have to be told it, and I feel like I'm a moron that I still have to be told it. It was just like, wow, I feel I've been sitting at home staring at my phone all day today, and I feel really weird and really bad. I wonder why. It's like, damn it, God damn it, and I just fall into that same. It was like last night for some reason, like one of my kids woke up at like 2 a.m., 2:30 in the morning, just like bad dream type of thing. Yeah. But then. For whatever reason, I, pulled up my phone, started looking on my phone. Now all of a sudden it's 5:30 and I'm still awake and now my day's ruined. And I'm just like, fuck me. Yeah. Goddamn phone got me again, but I'm too stupid to realize or do anything about it.
Because it gives you all the things you want.
Yeah, just give me like a little bit of serotonin and but I'm definitely not going to
just pull out your iPhones and just let yourself sink into it, Brian. Just let yourself,
I want to be that guy though, where he's just like sitting at a picnic table getting excited about like a virtual boy. Seems sick.
It's the funniest, most disingenuous part of it is that like you would be out at a park wearing all that dumb shit and like I'm drinking my lukewarm coffee now and I'm existing in this whole other world while you're outside. No, you want to be fucking in your underwear at home being gross and smelly.
Well, that's what he said. He was like, ooh, I'm drinking my coffee. Ooh, lukewarm, just like I like it. Anyway, so that was Techno God. Then we go right into one called Ambrosia, which was my favorite one by far, not only because, I just thought it was a fun little left turn, but also it calls back the, some of the loose ends from earlier. So we're back on the, someone's got a camcorder and it's a family party and everyone's just being weird and like some candid stuff, some like people trying to put on a little fun show because they see a camcorder. So you're at this family party and you've got Ruth, who's kind of the quote unquote protagonist, or she's certainly moving the story forward. And then her like weird, like greasy haired, creepy cousin, James, who is my favorite character in all of this, by the way. He was just by far the most interesting character, but you get creepy uncles like saying weird stuff to Ruth, and they're very much setting Ruth up to be, like I said, to be the protagonist, to be like the I'm gonna say the victim, but you think she's going to be a final girl type of situation or something like that. and then she goes out to like get something out of the garage, and then she is like ambushed by her little cousin, like, I'm gonna say 8-10 years old, little kid, jumps out and squirts her with a squirt gun. And she's like, you don't know what this family gathering's about, but you think it's like a, probably like a birthday party or a graduation party or a confirmation party type of quinceañera type. I mean, they're not Mexican, but you get the idea. Like, it seems like some sort of like adolescent girl coming of age. They seem to be there to celebrate her in some capacity. She seems to be somewhere between the ages of 16 and 19. And she's like, oh, he's like, I got you. Haha. She's like, yeah, you did get me. And she's like, where'd you get that? She's like, oh, I got it from the guy in the RV, which I'll admit didn't make the connection for me. I was just like, because they did a great job of right before he says something about the RV, one of her creepy uncles is like, you're going to make a man real happy one day. Like some creepy ass uncle comment. So you're like everything. So I think they lure you into this idea of like, we're just trying to communicate that everything in the 80s was fucking stranger danger.
Right.
Everybody was creepy. It was normal. Everyone just turned the other cheek on fucking weird perverts. And she says something about, this RV. Well, that raises her eyebrows a little bit. She's like, oh, what are you talking about, RV? She even brings it up to, I think, another uncle who is like, oh, we'll keep an eye out for like a creepy RV. But it's very much played to an appropriate level where you notice it, you don't forget about it, but you don't, at least for me, maybe I'm an idiot, but I did not think that this was going to be.
See,
I didn't make the connection.
I did because the squirt gun is like this bright orange and it's so specific, and the fact that the kid said he got it from the lady from the RV, I was like, oh, that was the vodka squirt gun from the first bit.
It should have been. And they definitely called out the vodka squirt gun a million times. They were doing shots out of a squirt gun earlier. In retrospect, I felt dumb that I didn't notice it, but I also didn't care at all. Like, if it was like, if I was watching and it was like, I was watching this, like it was I just was like, I had just come off of God of Death and Techno God. And I was like, I just want this to be over. And I did not have high hopes for this vignette either. So I was just like, I wasn't even trying to put the pieces together. So for that reason, it worked better for me. So like, maybe if those two didn't suck, I wouldn't have liked this one as much. I don't know.
Yeah. If you're not fully engaged while you're watching, then it's not going to I mean, and that's kind of a weird thing to say of like, oh yeah, we know how to break it up so people aren't going to catch on right away. We'll just put these two lesser short films in between the bookends. Which is like, that's a weird thing that's a weird thing if somebody actually thought that, but also at the same time.
I really think they did though. Yeah. Like there's no way they didn't. Yeah. It was like by far the two weakest ones slapped right in the middle.
I mean, I think just in general, they were hoping the passage of time would fucking make details drop out of your brain. Too. So yeah, I don't, but yeah, I was, I don't know. I picked up on it because I was just looking for the continuation of the first part because I was like, there's no way that's just the end of it.
I had already forgot about it and was waiting for this to be over so I could watch something I wanted to watch. That's pretty much where I was at this point. So you go back go ahead.
Well, I just want to say, like, I there's a certain appreciation I have for like some connection there, but I think there's like this distortion of reality of like, if I want to buy into this idea of this like VHS coming together, why fully would it all be on the same thing? I don't know. It just
there's a lot of disbelief that needs suspended.
Yeah. So I like it to a certain extent, and that one, December was like a better one, and so that girl not dying because she got squirted with like water in a sense, right? Mm-hmm, so like she didn't die. Like interesting connections, but it reminded me. I'm trying to think of that. I was trying to look it up. John Goodman. There's a movie a long time ago. Like was it? I feel like it has red in the name that he was in. Where was it? I'm really gonna fuck this up and not name off the top of my head. It just reminded me of another film in general, like this, like
who was in the movie that you're thinking of?
I feel like John Goodman. It was like where they're at the house with like the religious culty kind of like, that's what it reminded me of. Like I kept on thinking of that. I know I'm gonna find it.
I think of horror movies with John Goodman. The only thing I think of is like that.
No, I don't think it's horror. It was
You're thinking of Red State, aren't you?
Yes, I am thinking of Red State. There you go. Okay, I knew it had red in the name. Okay, so it kind of had this like feel for me too. Again, a lot of these just reminded me of something else that I've seen before. So that's where I was at with it.
Yeah. They go back in and Ruth's mom starts giving this kind of cryptic speech. And this was the best part, frankly, of it. I thought, like, Ruth's mom giving this cryptic speech about this family tradition, and they're like, "Oh, wait, no, there's something weird about this family. Like, what's going on here? Are they fucking vampires? Like, are they fucking a cult? What's going on?" And they talk about this tradition that Ruth is involved in, and this is, you know, her celebration of like her kind of involvement in this. And they keep saying like to the 7, and then I was like, "Oh, okay, well the 7." You know, I remembered at this point. I was like, this kind of woke me up.
With it
the
now.
7 that was on the Winnebago. I was like, oh, hey, they are calling it back. Oh, cool. And then you get this, you know, ultimately what they communicate here is that everyone in the family has to murder 7 people. And that's like the tradition that they follow. They don't really get too much deeper into that. However, they do explain they are very nonchalant about the whole thing, and they're very proud of this thing. Of like grandpa was a surgeon who used to just kill people in surgery. And then, the one aunt, talk about how she fed people, brownies with arsenic in it. And then Ruth plays her tape, and it is, of course, her following the Winnebago from the opening vignette from No Wake. And, she follows them out to the lake. And it shows Ruth, shooting the campers, and the whole the creepiest part of it is the family are treating it like they're watching, highlights from a soccer game or something like that. They're very proud of her and kind of laughing and kind of slightly making fun of her, but it's just like the whole that was by far the most effective part for me. And so then all of a sudden the cops show up. And this is where it's like, I don't know. I don't want to say things fell apart, but it's just like all of a sudden the cops show up and they all are like surprised, but not surprised that the house is surrounded. Like one guy's surprised, but everyone else is just like, I don't know. They almost felt like they saw it coming a little bit. They didn't communicate that, but that's just kind of the vibe that I got from their body language. But then the mom is just like, they knew
that this could happen. Like that's what I feel that might have been.
Then she goes,
kind of.
Yeah, because she even says like, "Okay, it's happening. It's time." Because they've prepared for this.
I think but
it's just like,
well, I think it's probably like if this is some like weird religious rite that they've come up with them for themselves, then they also have like every religion has its own end times scenario. So like they probably just thought this is their end times. The police have come for us and they're going to shoot us and kill us now. So let's.
Yeah, right. You're right. Like, they probably, you're going to fight to the death and you might die too. Kind of like you have to be willing to die in a sense. Yeah.
I get all that. It's just like they set it up as this has been something that's generally like this has been happening for generations. Assumedly decades, if not multiple decades, this has been happening, and they're having this like fun little thing that is like not a culmination but a celebration of bringing the daughter into the fold. And it's just like it felt like when they came to the conclusion that this was the end and everything was falling apart, and this was obviously something that was happening quite abrupt, I wish that there was a little bit more like how James acted. James was like, nah, dog, I'm not ready for this. I don't want this. I'm not into this. But everybody else was just like, no, that's why we're here. All right, let's get our Uzis out. Again, this is nitpicky. I did like it. I did like how this kind of went down. So that, like I said, the cops show up and the whole family's just like, all right, we're going to go down, don't let them take you alive. Right. And then, mom, pretty quickly explains that there's essentially like the suicide pact that like you can't be taken alive type of thing.
Right.
And so they all start, opening fire as the cops come in. They all have like automatic weapons and shit. And James wants to bail, but Ruth is like super on board. She's super bought in. And when James is like, no, I'm not going to do it, blah, 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 Ruth just shoots James dead. And he's the one holding the camera. And because he had second thoughts and she was like, nah, fuck you, bro. And shoots him. And then Ruth goes down in a hail of bullets too, just like everybody else does. And then Ruth, and then you're just looking at Ruth, and it was like a pretty brutal scene. Like Ruth's like posted up by a bed, like in a bedroom, like a cop comes in, she blasts a couple people, and then like I said, hail of gunfire, she's killed. And then everyone's like, what the fuck? This is obviously, the cops weren't expecting any of this. A lot of chaos. Then like a few minutes later, another investigator or something, like the things have calmed down. They're trying to assess the situation. Ruth comes back, shoots another person, and then again she gets shot again. Then she wakes up again. She shoots herself, but she won't die. And then she is arrested. And then the tape cuts to the campers, specifically, I didn't write down her name, but the one who was water skiing, the first one that got shot, filling up the squirt gun that the cousin, of course, shot Ruth with in the, weird haunted lake. And that's why she won't die. Yeah. So they have realized that they got in contact with this water. It makes them immortal. They can't be killed. They're going to keep coming back. And in this instance, I guess my question mark is, they seemed kind of cool with the fact that they came back.
Yeah.
And how would they know that Ruth was part of a death cult that would be a huge, like, punishment
but also, why would they
for her
set
to
it
come
up
back?
so that, yeah, well, and that's what, like, why would you want to give that gun to someone that would probably shoot most of the family when you really wanted to get revenge on them? Or is it like just knowing that you can't die and you have to kind of keep reliving all of these things? Or in Ruth's case,
well, and it's like how do they know that Ruth was the main person? Like, how do they know Ruth was the one who did it?
I think that's just the script doing the work for us, like, because the script said so.
Yeah,
because I think it was more of like, at the end of the no wake segment, she says, I think her name's Kelly, but she says, we're going to do to them what they did to us. So I don't think she knew it was Ruth. I think what she knew was, like, they found the truck and they said, okay, then go over there and like spray your family. Yeah, just go squirt your family. And like, now they're going to be this. And then they went off and probably called the cops and said, hey, the person who like killed, the sister and her boyfriend back at the campsite, we saw who it was. Here's an anonymous tip. Go arrest them.
Yeah, but like, why would they assume that them living forever would be a,
I don't know,
would be a bet?
Well, I feel like they look at it as there's always an out with suicide, in a sense. Like everything that we've talked about to a point is that, like, they're going to keep doing this pattern of behavior where they kill whatever, like they're part of this family where, like, we're going to keep killing people until we get caught. So now they're in a sense where the idea of suicide is not ever going to be an option. They will always come back and they will always have it. Like,
why it was a great, I understand why it was a great retribution for Ruth, but how would the campers know
they
that?
Wouldn't know that. I think they just were banking on the idea that they would be shot and then eventually arrested and they would just spend the rest of their life in jail. They didn't know it's also icing on the cake because of their belief.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. I guess they could have talked to the kid and the kid told them that Ruth was the one who shot people, but it's like,
sure,
I don't
could
know.
be.
Maybe I would imagine that kid would probably know a little bit about what was happening. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's a lot that intentionally wasn't explained. So holes weren't created.
Yeah, they could have also just asked the kid, hey, whose truck is that? And then he would have said, hey, that's Ruth's truck. Okay, go shoot her with this gun. That's all.
Yeah, that's true.
There is a huge missed opportunity in this short, though, because we have the little kid shooting the squirt gun, And the fact that they don't give you the kid trying to defend the house with an actual gun and then getting blown away.
Yeah.
That's bullshit.
Come on, guys.
That's bullshit. Step it up.
Come on. Come on. You're going to be mean. You're going to be mean about it. You're going to be mean-spirited.
Yeah.
Come on. Have a kid. Have a kid
Yeah.
doing this.
Have a kid get shot.
Were you too scared to have a kid get shot?
Yeah. What are you, pussies?
All right, so I'll go down back through. So we've got the last one here, and then we've got a little bit of the wraparound. So I'll go through this relatively quickly. But, you've got someone on. So this is a little bit. It's a little bit confusing at first, and that's intentional, obviously. But you've got someone named Karen. She's on a 911 call, and you see this home invasion that's happening. So you're seeing the home invasion from the first person. But you're hearing the 911 call of the potential victim over the first person home invasion, which is a little weird and like disconnected, right? You also see the first person home invader would be murderer choose an electric knife, which is a bold choice that I respect. Because I'm a big electric knife fan. People don't respect the electric knife, not even as a murder weapon. Great kitchen tool.
How else are you going to carve a turkey?
Or even a ham or a meatloaf, guys. If you got a good, juicy, not too tough meatloaf, a ham loaf, guys, get the electric knife out. It works so much better. It's not going to crumble on you. Anyway, Karen won't stop talking. While the person's coming into the house, she's hiding under the bed. She gets hacked all up, right? And you keep cutting to these interludes of this like low budget zombie movie of like zombies having a picnic with like kids. And I wanted to see more of that, but we don't get get any more of that. So you cut to the detectives that are investigating, right? And one cop says, that he saw this murder. They're in the house, right? So Karen's on the bed, she's all hacked up, her eyes are all cut up, her throat slashed, all this stuff. And he's basically saying, like, I saw this murder on a tape that was sent to the precinct, sent to the cops 3 days before. But now I'm seeing the victim of this, right? And we didn't know what to make of this tape, but now we can see this is what happened. But we got this 3 days ago, and this crime just happened. So this doesn't make a lot of sense to us. So this is where the whole like VHS thing to me, like, or the found footage thing started to be a little bit of a stretch, where it's like, now we're watching spliced together footage on this VHS that is including like closed circuit surveillance footage of the police officer in his office. And you're like, come on. Yeah. Like, I mean,
overall, just to cut it like into this, like, I totally agree with like where you're going with that. But this might have been overall as a story, the most interesting one. And like the gore related to it, like really, really struck me.
Yeah,
and
it wasn't bad at all.
I loved those cuts. But I hear what you're saying too. It's like there is some disbelief that this could also be a thing. But I liked the story concept.
The found footage, the fact that it is 100% found footage is really kept together with like some clothespins and some duct tape. But
you always have to assume with all of these films that all of these VHSs are either stitched together by like some demon who wants you to watch it, or
I was going to say there is some unknown third person that we never meet,
or like an Illuminati that wants you to see it. Because I think that was kind of something that was in a lot of the earlier VHSs is like even it's either I think it's 94 where they go into that kind of warehouse funhouse type deal. They have the SWAT team and they're all just.
Was that 94?
I think it was 94.
Or was that viral? VHS viral? I think you're right. I think it was 94.
Because I think viral was just like a van that was abandoned in the LA River. That like had tapes in it.
Yeah, and the first one was the like they're criminals, robbing a place, and they come across the tapes. Yeah.
And then the first one is like it's like a trap house, but instead of drugs, it's VHSs. But
Sure.
But yeah, you always have to just assume that these were these gone through post-production, either through the video god or through, an Illuminati that wants you to see it. So like I'm we're this many movies in, I'm fine with suspending the disbelief of like, yeah, they also got the mailbox footage and they got the dash cam and they got the
Mm-hmm.
I just want them to recognize, like, I don't want them to ever fully forget how stupid it is. But you get another POV.
Let me remind you,
your movies are fun, but they're also dumb. So no.
Yeah, you don't. Please don't get too big for your britches. You're doing bad stuff here. But I like it, but it's not good.
I mean, I think this one was my favorite though, because like Meg was saying, like
really,
especially just like when you get to the second tape. And like that's when they start kicking in like the weird soundtrack of like, because like the killer POV is so like the footage is so like grainy and dissolving on itself, and it's not good looking at all. So like it's coming from a weird source, which you learn later on what it is. But like the soundtrack over the second kill is I had to look it up because I actually thought it was Tobacco, who's a Pittsburgh artist, but it's a UK noise band called Throbbing Gristle, which was active in the 80s, so it makes sense.
Throbbing Gristle.
Yeah, Throbbing Gristle.
That's
that's the most
name.
college radio shit I heard. But anyway,
like it.
This, I mean, it's put together. The whole thing, and the soundtrack to it is probably a great testament as well. The whole thing is very heavy-handed on purpose, right? They're not trying to be subtle with any of this stuff, but like the cops are like so cop-ish, and the goth kid is so goth kid. Like it's just everything's so to 11, which you kind of have to do for a short story because you need to communicate stuff like very quickly. Right. Like there can't be subtlety to anything. Not that there can't be, but they choose not to have subtlety involved anywhere, which I can understand why.
It felt very 80s in a sense, though, to even see that, because I feel like, I mean, literally, Steve, your movie, Trick or Treat, like it almost seemed like a character that would have been directly out of your film,
yeah. Like, yeah, I will say that whoever is playing the goth kid is the worst actor in the entire film. Of all, like
the one cop is pretty bad too.
The cops, I mean, the cops are like
both the cops are bad.
They're hard. They're all on the cops are like really on the nose cops. And I wanted to bring up, so the director of this segment is Scott Derrickson, and his directing credits are out of control. Like I don't. So he also did The Black Phone, and and he also did Doctor Strange, but he got his start doing Hellraiser Inferno.
Yeah, I saw that. I was gonna get into that. He did Hellraiser Inferno. He did
which is the one with the cop being cop. You know, like it's basically
he loves hard boiled. You could tell he loves a hard boiled cop. That is his shit. Exorcism of Emily Rose, is fine.
Yeah, I like it.
It's just fine. He wrote and directed along with Jason Blum Sinister, which is fine. I like that one. Okay. I mean, as far as like the movies of that ilk, it's okay. Yeah.
But then he also did
it is all over the place. I'm trying to find through lines here, and it's just tough.
The Day the Earth Stood Still remake with Keanu. Like, how does that relate to anything else that we've just talked about?
That's what I'm saying. It is tough to find a through line here as I go down through and find go through his movies. It is tough to find a through line. I will say, if I had to find one through line, it is heavy-handedness. Is that a through line? Because I think that's one trend that I'm seeing through all this. But yeah, I mean that's what you get from this. The cops, like I said, are just the most coppish cops that ever copped. But anyway, so fast forward a little bit, we get another home invasion POV. This one is the one that I was just like, oh, now I'm checked out a little bit, because it's at this point it's a male homeowner, looks like a pretty fit guy, like formidable guy, and it's a fight with this homeowner, and it's real dumb and unrealistic. They go after these kind of stunts, and there's like some pretty good practical effects that happen here, but the whole thing feels really staged. And then even the way he like goes through a glass table, it feels like a set piece.
Yeah. I feel like I was too drawn in by the Hamburger Lady song by Throbbing Gristle. I was too drawn in to like really notice.
Yeah, this whole struggle was really just poorly staged. But ultimately the guy gets all cut up. Yeah. So now you get another investigation. So it's a little bit of deja vu here. And then, we've already seen this video so now you get the second time. Oh, we've seen this, 3 days ago before it happened, blah, blah, blah. And then, they track where that tape comes from. They find that the person was doing it using a public mailbox. They do a stakeout. They see someone, putting another, something weird in the mailbox. They try to stop him. He runs. They snag his ass up. It's this kid named Gunther. Gunther is the father of one of the two detectives that are on this case.
Of one of the detectives.
What did I say? Father?
Father.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, that's what my notes say. He's the son. He's a kid, and he's the son. The father of this kid, of Gunther, is one of the detectives. You get this real weird, unnatural conversation. Like I said, the kid who plays Gunther is horrible. He's got this like super goth kid, like Flock of Seagulls looking haircut, and he's just all gothed out, and it's just like I said, it's very heavy handed. First of all, the dad, they would never put a cop dad in the room to question his son. Like, it's just so dumb. Like, he wouldn't be immediately taken off the case, but
or would they, because they're cops?
Yeah, but the whole thing's recorded. Like,
I don't even know what you're saying when you say that.
I'm saying cops are dirty and they'll do things to get around their family getting in trouble.
But it wouldn't be recorded in an interrogation room. It would just be like, hey,
they would have turned it off for sure.
Yeah.
But they get this weird argument about how like the kid is insisting beta is better than VHS. It's like, what are you trying to tell us with this? It's like the fart joke from the fucking earthquake one.
Yeah.
Long story short, Gunther's camcorder has started recording his dreams. And the acting sucks so bad. It's really hard to be invested, for me at least. The dad, but then you quickly learn that the dad knows that Gunther has these like prophetic dreams, and then it runs in the family, and we get this like little exposition vomit, through the one-way mirror between the two cops. And we find out that he's mailing the tapes because he knows his dad is the killer. And his dad doesn't like him to talk about the dreams, he says, but he knows that his dad's the killer. And he's mailing the tapes to the cops to get his dad in trouble, or to like tell them what's happening, I guess. And then they watch the tape that Gunther tried to mail when he got caught. It's another home invasion POV, but the murder has already happened. And there's like body parts and shit all over the living room of this house. And the partner, basically stops the Gunther's dad, his partner, outside the house when they go to the house that they can see on the screen. Hey, it's this address, whatever. We can see the reflection of we're like, bitch, you can't see no reflections of nothing in that quality tape, but whatever. But they go to the house and he stops outside the house and goes, this is big exposition thing of of how, Bobby, who's Gunther's dad, the cop who's Gunther's dad, is the killer. And his partner kind of knows this is probably the case. Well, Bobby shoots his partner in the head. We're watching this all presumably through dash cam footage. And then he goes into the house because, of course, he's there to kill the person. We don't necessarily know why yet. Another cop shows up, just like another random cop shows up, like patrolman, and sees the other cop, Bobby's partner, dead in the car. Meanwhile, Gunther is having a whole VHS Inception situation at the precinct, and wakes up from a nap. He fell asleep apparently in the interrogation room. And then, dad comes back to the station, says he's going to kill Gunther because this is all his fault. But Gunther says, nah, dog, you ain't going to kill me because I know how this all ends because I have these prophetic visions via VHS tape. So then, just as he's about to kill Gunther, of course, another cop comes in. There's a shootout in the station. The dad goes on a little rampage, kills a bunch of cops, and then Gunther shoots the dad in the head. And that's fucking it. So they definitely are Black Mirroring this thing pretty hard.
Yeah.
And it's not bad, but they do these long, sustained shots. A lot of droning, buzzing sound effects in the background. It just felt like Wish.com, Black Mirror to me a lot.
I don't know. I like all the droning and the noise. I guess that's what I was just really attracted to. Is just, it's such a noisy, drony. It's got that weird track that I thought was tobacco. It's got a guar track in there. It's got it's just such a bizarre soundscape. And then it's also the most brutal when it gets brutal. There's eyeball trauma stuff, like a Fulci movie. There's,
Yeah.
So it gets pretty gross, and then just the acting's bad for me, and I'm whatever. We're gonna wrap this up pretty quick anyway. So deliver your lines bad. I don't care.
Yeah, Gunther is also way too he doesn't strike me as a goth kid at all.
No,
nothing about him, the way he talks, the way he looks. He just he looks like he's going to a Halloween party. And so you don't believe him or care about him. And then he delivers his lines so poorly that you're just I'm kind of taken out of it. If you'd had a little fucking rat-faced kid, you know what I mean? And he was a little bit more of grimier, and was a little bit more as hard-boiled as the cops are. But instead you have this weird little angelic-faced little, fucking kid. And you're that's not who. Why did you cast that person? It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it doesn't fit. It doesn't completely work. And whatever.
Yeah. It's not bad. It's not bad by any means.
That character fully reminded me of, I don't know if this would have ever come across your social media feed, but it was this emo looking character that's in this full headdress, but he's also has this emo haircut. And he's on a picnic bench singing. That's what he kind of reminded me of.
Yeah, you're right. He looks a little bit like that.
Yeah,
but if that
he felt like a caricature of this goth kid, though, which also lined up and why I made the comment about it being a trick or treat type character.
Yeah,
this is a caricature of what people saw as goth kids. I don't know. It made sense to me in a way that that's what he would look like.
He looked like a guest
segment.
star on a Disney sitcom, a Disney Channel young adult sitcom. He should have been on the fucking
Lizzie McGuire.
Yeah, or Hannah Montana or some shit. He just looked the Sweet Life of Zach and Cody. Like he looks like he's on one of those shows.
Oh, he's like the evil version of Hannah Montana. Like he's like
Yeah.
like Hannah Montana and I don't know what, I never watched the show, but like she had the other identity. Was the other identity just Miley Cyrus or?
Yeah, but I think I don't know if her name was Miley Cyrus, but yes,
Okay.
Hannah Montana was like her alter ego.
Yeah, so it's like Batman and Catwoman, you know, like when they're Bruce Wayne and Selena Kyle, they're together, but like when they're Batman and Catwoman, they don't get together. You know who
it is? It's Garth Brooks. It's Garth Brooks.
Oh yeah. It's Garth Brooks and Chris Gaines. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like when he transforms into Chris Gaines, you know, he doesn't get along with Hannah Montana. But when he's Garth Brooks, he gets along with Miley Cyrus. He can go hang out, have cookout with the Billy Ray Cyrus, you know?
Yeah.
That's what Gunther is. He has his alternate version that can hang out with Miley Cyrus.
Yeah, exactly. So let's get
Miley Cyrus was actually one of the people that was killed in one of those houses. Did you guys know that?
No.
Don't you say that. Bite your fucking tongue. Anyway, so let's get to the end.
Nobody's gonna fucking kill me.
She's immortal, first of all. How dare you? Second of all, if she was anyone in this,
I know you were such a Miley Cyrus
guy.
fan,
I'm a big Miley guy. She also would have just been that Aztec warrior god that comes up and takes down a city after an earthquake. Anyway, let's get to the end of the wraparound here with our boy Rory. So, you know, the main doctor, the male doctor, he's kind of losing it. And the other doctors, like kind of tertiary doctors, you get this other like female doctor who she seems to be the only survivor of the ordeal, and she's being interviewed by the TV news show or the cable news show, and she's basically alluding to the fact that she was the only one left. And up to this point, it's been this like docuseries thing, like we talked about, but now all of a sudden they basically are like, you know, we can't show you what happened, but you know, everyone died and fuck off. Well, then the tape we're watching cuts to a firsthand, like uncut footage of the team recording in the, you know, in their you know, research facility there at this university or whatever. And Gary is basically like the kind of unwitting stooge kind of guy who, like, when the female researcher who's trying to leave basically is like, this is getting too weird, fuck y'all, I'm out. She's trying to get Gary to come with her, and Gary's like, no, dog, I gotta stay here. And then, you know, Gary is gonna get it. So they send Gary in there on a dang suicide mission to give Rory an adrenaline shot. Sounds like a bad idea. He wraps around because Gary at this point, Rory, who was kind of mimicking Gary, is now just turned into basically a lumpy space princess from Adventure Time, but with fucking crazy ass pointed tentacles. And he's just like, grabs Gary, wraps around him. And even at that point, the main doctor's like, no, everything's cool. But everyone starts to panic, of course. Rory starts to just go bug shit at this point, and kills Gary, and kills one of the other doctors. The main doctor tries to escape, but there's like, you know, Chekhov's hand scanner that we see earlier on that basically, you know, he gets blood all over him, so the hand scanner won't work, so he can't escape. And Rory, which I there was a lot of off-screen kills in this, which pissed me off. I get why you're doing a big supernatural fucking thing, but whatever. Like in VHS, was it 94 that had the crazy, it was like Taiwanese or Filipino or something, had all that crazy special effects madness.
Yeah, it was like the Indonesian, I think it's an Indonesian. Yeah, I think it was an Indonesian or Malaysian film. But yeah, it was all like, yeah, just weird fucking cybernetic, monsters.
just bonkers shit. And I just wanted a little bit more of that in this ending, but we didn't get it, unfortunately. Rory's killing everybody off screen. And then Rory drags this other guy who was holding the camera, and he's getting dragged. And of course, like, he's kind of holding the camera, or the camera's simultaneously getting dragged. Earlier on, you kept seeing, because they were holding, I mentioned they were holding Rory in this, scientific research room that was meant to look like a, like a living room, right? There's a couch, a TV, coffee table. And on the TV was this like 80s, like, kind of workout tape type of thing with these women. They were doing these kind of like laying on their back, doing these like pelvic thrust kind of maneuvers. Like the thing that the creepy physical, getting physical. Like it's the tape that the creepy uncle in an 85 movie would be like, jerking off to, or like it's like the thing that like grandpa in Christmas Vacation would be like ogling, while everyone else is like cooking dinner or something. And Rory basically drags them all into his little, captive room, and they're all dead, and he's
just trying to have an orgy, dude.
Well,
like, let him do
he's staging
thing.
this thing where like the freaking the characters are all like doing this. He's basically forcing them all to do this exercise, their corpses to do this exercise routine, which is kind of fun. Hey, that's all right. It was kind of a fun little cheeky ending there.
Yeah, it was a long way for a punchline.
It was. That's what I said. Is like, for if it would have had a bunch of like, if the trip would have been more fun, and they would have shown some bonkers, the doctor getting his head ripped off with a tentacle or something, or at least his eyes bugging out or something. I'd have been like, oh, sick. And then you end on a fun little joke. Oh, that's, kind of irreverent. Cool. But no, you just kind of had this big, long, drawn out thing with a joke payoff.
Yeah. 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 And it just,
Yeah, I would say like the stories overall were decently cool. Like, some of them were pretty original. The execution is very hit or miss. I mean, this is just kind of what I expect from these VHS movies. But overall, but then still overall, I enjoyed it. Okay, it's a 6 out of 10, 6.5 to 7 out of 10, maybe. I like 94 better. I probably like 99 better. But the one thing that probably gave another half point at the end is during the credits, you get this parody of Alice Cooper song, which was kind of fun. And it was like basically them doing a take on, people called The Man Behind the Mask. I think the song's actually called He's Back, but it's that song he did for the Friday 13th.
Yeah. Yeah. It's He's Back, parentheses, The Man Behind the Mask.
The Man Behind the Mask. There you go. Yeah. It's from the Friday 13th Part 6, movie, which I love that song. It's always on my Halloween playlist. So, they won me back at the end with a little like weird like rip off of an Alex Cooper song.
It's funny because like while we've been talking, I've been looking at the credits for this film as well as like 94 and 99. And it's funny how little, like when it doesn't hit, you don't remember what that is. Because like Ozzy's Dungeon, I remember from 99 because that's the Flying Lotus one. That is the Legend of the Hidden Temple, batshit one. Like I remember that one obviously, and To Hell and Back from the crew that did Deadstream. Remember that one, and then the other ones they just I'm reading the titles and they ain't hitting, dog. That's
what I'm saying. It's like you remember 2 from each movie, and they know you're only going to remember 2, so they bookend it with the good ones. They do a decently memorable wraparound, and then that's how you get to a 6.5. Like it's just very formulaic.
Yeah, but I feel like, I mean, still in retrospect, I think if we're doing any sort of comparison or things that we do remember, and I'm comparing, individual films, is that like, sure, there was a couple that sparked my interest in this one, but I'm not going to remember them as well as, say, the one that the Deathstream guy did. You know what I mean? Or
yeah.
So
I don't think any one of them stood out.
I still will say this is not my favorite. Yeah, this is not one I would be like, you should watch that one in it. I'd be like, watch the first one and watch 94, 99 kind of thing.
Shudder needs to recut like all 6 films into like maybe a fan voted like favorite compilation.
Ooh, that'd be fun.
Yeah.
That'd be really cool.
Each one of them has like one good one and sometimes 2 good ones.
Mm-hmm.
But this one, honestly, the one that's going to, like I said, the Ambrosian was the one I liked the best. But the one that I am going to remember the most was the Techno God one. Like that's the one when I think of VHS 85, that's what I'm going to remember.
Yeah,
which is not great, but that's the one that's going to stick in my brain.
Though I think that one's going to be stuck in my brain as I remember is the Goth Kid one.
The Goth Hannah Montana.
No.
I want to remember No Wake and Ambrosia more, but I feel like it needed a third part just because there's so much mystery left up to what is actually going on in the lake and what happens.
It might be that would be a movie I would probably actually watch.
Yeah.
Would probably not be a great film, but I would actually watch it as a full film.
Yeah,
I wish that was almost the wraparound. Like that could have been the wraparound for this entire film.
It's weird to get this and
I would have been sold on it. Like
this big, almost you can imagine a backstory to the lake of being this big cosmic, almost Lovecraftian story about, the old god origins of the lake and why they bring back people to life and blah, 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 and all this stuff. But then you are just being introduced to the extras, the tertiary characters.
Yeah. Cause because you're also you're given setup of everybody knows the lake is fucked. Don't go in the lake. And so the government is aware of this. And then you're giving the one lady suffers that horrific jaw injury and the other guy has the back of his head blown off. And it's well, what really happens as time goes on? Do they heal or do they not? Do
they decompose?
But I'm also curious, do the cops know something about this lake too, or is there some sort of back end thing of why they would go to this house being tipped off by these particular people? I think there could be more that would be explored, that either maybe they're going after this family because they're trying to cover it up,
could be that.
There could be way more.
They did just enough to they did the right amount for a short, a little vignette.
Sure.
But it would be a cool thing to expound upon a little bit.
It's just the fact that you're left wanting more is
Mm-hmm.
makes me unsatisfied because I know we're not going to get more is what it is.
Right. And I think also inherently the fact that we're talking about 85, we're so, as much as I love it, the 80s nostalgia stuff is just it's done, guys. You got to stop.
I'm kind of, are you guys also surprised that it took this long for them to do one that was based in the 80s? Because
it feels weird to go.
When we were teenagers, it was the I Love the 80s was all over it. I'm a little surprised they did the 90s before that, but maybe it's a lot of younger kids now.
And now it's in the next 5 years, we'll start seeing a lot more early 2000s stuff as being more nostalgic. I mean, we're already seeing that obviously be the case, but it did seem
guys, VHS new metal.
Oh yeah, it's something that happens.
Fucking go.
Well, it already the fact that they didn't do a sequence.
We call it industrial, I think.
VHS industrial. The fact that they didn't do a giant, Cthulhu style, monster that destroys Woodstock 99. and it eats Fred Durst and all this stuff. Like that's the only they already missed. They already completely fucked up that
Whiff.
opportunity. They
Big
had
whiff.
it. And they missed it.
Fred Durst actually was in that lake, and he will never die. He will he's aging,
Yeah.
and I think he's actively doing it really well.
And if you notice, I
but
met
he
him
will
one
never
time, and his
die.
guts were hanging out. I remember his intestines were on the outside.
No
Guys.
one's proved that Wes Borland isn't some sort of old god keeping the rest of the band alive.
That's true. He could be. He could be. He always looks like he's getting ready some
he
sort of
probably did make that
ritual or
band.
whatever.
Low key.
Yeah.
He's the Aztec. That Aztec god. That was Wes Borland. You didn't see what Anyway, guys.
See, everything comes back to Limp Bizkit. Limp Bizkit rules everything around me.
That acronym doesn't work, but I wish it did. But anyway, guys, so that was VHS 85. It's currently streaming on Shudder. I don't know if it's other places. That's where I watched it. But yeah, definitely worth a watch. If you haven't watched it already and then we just spoiled all of it, I don't know, watch something else. But it was fun. I'll continue to watch these VHS movies. This was a little bit of a step back for me, but I, didn't hate it by any stretch of the imagination.
Mm-hmm.
Damn.
Yeah.
Not my favorite. But the next one's going to be all sci-fi focused. So, but the fact that they're taking,
that'll be really fun.
The fact that they're taking more of a genre theme than a time and place theme is more interesting to me. So we'll see what happens with that.
Interested to see if they have a little bit more budget behind it. Obviously sci-fi inherently, you think you probably need a little bit bigger budget, but maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah.
All right, guys. That was VHS 85. Remember, for our November Showdown episode, we got a couple more episodes here before Halloween, but never too early to look forward to that next Showdown episode where we're going to be talking about revenge horror. Excuse me, I got the hiccups because of how I've been drinking beers. I'm a dang old cartoon mouse over here. Once I start drinking beers, I just start getting hiccups. If you have any suggestions for revenge horror, I, for one, definitely not made my decision yet. Shoot us a DM over on specifically on Instagram at Halloween's Forever, because that's the one that I'm in. So you give me all the good suggestions. Or if you like Steve better and you want to give Steve some suggestions, you can go over to Twitter /X and send him some DM suggestions there for revenge horror as well, because we're going to be announcing here in the coming weeks what our revenge horror movies are going to be. Anything else we should talk about?
No, not that I know of. Meg, do you have anything else? Your cat biting you? What's up?
No, you guys have watched him snuggling me for the last hour.
He's been your shit.
Fuck. Yeah. No, guys. No, it's been nice hanging out with Shins again. Yeah, I'm gonna go back into my
bog
and do the boggiest of haggiest things.
Slide on back into the bog.
I'll plug that I am still actively working on Bleeding Hearts Beer Club, and I should be announcing some stuff. I'm going to be working on some stuff for the next few months. So yeah, follow it on Instagram, Bleeding Hearts Beer Club. Yeah, I'm excited. So yeah.
Go check out Meg. Bleeding Heart Beer Club. Cool name.
Yeah.
Gonna be awesome beer. Excited for that.
We're gonna cry together a lot.
Get on in there, guys.
Drink a lot of really great, Czech inspired beer.
Come on into the bog. The water's fine.
So it's her 10 degree shoegaze.
It's coming, guys. It's coming, guys. All right, boys and ghouls. For the Halloween is Forever crew, I'm Brian.
I'm Meg.
Champ. Mr. October, as they say.
Mr. October.
You shut your mouth. All right, bye. Shut up.
Bye.